Specifically, per the direction of the One Big Beautiful Bill, NASA must complete and launch the Lunar Gateway. Just last month, along with NASA officials and representatives from all of our international partners, I watched the successful deployment test of Redwire's massive rollout solar arrays for the Gateway's power and propulsion element. These arrays, which will be some of the largest ever deployed by humanity in space, will power the Gateway, representing the pinnacle of solar electric propulsion technology, a key capability for both future civil space exploration and national security activities. Without the funding and direction of the One Big Beautiful Bill, this critical work would be in jeopardy, and I'm sure China would like nothing more than for the U.S. to abandon its lead in solar electric propulsion and to lose the benefits of Gateway in orbit and on the lunar surface. With Gateway and full commercial logistic services, the Artemis program can support lunar surface operations for 60 to 90 days, enabling robust activities and transforming the dream of lunar resource extraction and utilization into reality. Without Gateway, lunar surface activities will be limited to 5 to 7 days, dramatically curtailing the very nature of NASA operations. Additionally, while not a military facility, the presence of Gateway in cislunar space will provide a platform that will inherently allow America and its partners to monitor Chinese activities. A permanent spacecraft orbiting the moon will project American influence and power forward, discouraging illicit Chinese operations that may otherwise occur in the shadows. Moreover, Gateway is critical for projecting American power not only in space, but here on Earth. Over 60% of the Gateway's costs are being borne by our international partners, representing billions that have already been spent building hardware. Turning away from Gateway now would squander this unprecedented global investment in Artemis and force our international allies to seek partnerships with America's geopolitical rivals. Conversely, if NASA reaffirms its commitment to Gateway, we can unlock billions of dollars of additional international investments, creating even more robust capabilities for Artemis, along with a windfall for the American taxpayer. The combined Gateway, PPE, and HALO modules can be completed and launched in 2027, a mere 2 years from now. We can achieve an early win in this competition if America can simply demonstrate the wherewithal not to give up on the race when we are so close to the finish line. Additionally, the success of our lunar and Martian exploration efforts depend upon maintaining a strong foundation in low Earth orbit. The technologies, experience, and partnerships that occur in LEO drives the capabilities of our entire space enterprise. For example, at Redwire, using our biofabrication facility on the International Space Station, we have printed the first ever human meniscus in space. Who doesn't need a meniscus? We follow this up with printing live cardiovascular tissue and bringing it back, still live. Eventually, we could print whole organs in space, and that would save countless lives. We're also at Redwire making even more progress in drug development with our pillbox system that has now flown 32 times on the International Space Station. We've demonstrated how larger and more uniform seed crystals can be grown in space, leading to the development of enhanced pharmaceuticals with better efficacy, longevity, and fewer side effects. There is no question in my mind that microgravity manufacturing will transform the pharmaceutical and biotech fields. The only question is, will those benefits be enjoyed in China or here in the United States? Without the funding of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and explicit action by NASA within the next few months, we run the risk of reducing the number of American astronauts on the ISS from 4 to 3 and then down to 2. If this committee's directives are not followed, for the first time in history, there will be more Chinese astronauts in space than Americans. This should be unacceptable. Unacceptable to Congress, unacceptable to NASA, and unacceptable to this nation. Again, I'm grateful to this committee for the support of Artemis, the ISS, and NASA science. Together, we must speak out with one unified voice that we will not cede LEO, our international partnerships, and the moon to the tender mercies of the Chinese Communist Party. I urge us, all of us here today and listening online, to fight. Fight for the ISS, fight for Artemis, and fight for America's future in space.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Mr. Bridenstine.
Thank you, Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, members of the committee. It's an honor to be here. After hearing Mike Gold's testimony, I want to comment on a few things in my 5 minutes. Number one, everything he said about medicine and microgravity is correct. We are seeing transformational capabilities in pharmaceuticals because atoms and molecules organize differently in microgravity than they do here on Earth. There are drugs that we are demonstrating on the International Space Station that we can create that can do things like, we had a drug, a Merck drug, Keytruda, which is for lung cancer, and we were able to make that drug so that instead of trying to find out if within 2 or 3 months if it's going to be efficacious, you can find out within 2 to 3 weeks whether or not it's going to be efficacious. Instead of administering it with an infusion, which takes time and is painful and is costly, you can do it with a pill. These are and that's just one drug that is improved. We're talking about drugs to treat diseases that have never been treatable before. To piggyback on what Mike Gold just said, we are either going to have that capability in the United States because we have a permanent human presence in space with a fully mission-capable space station, or we're going to cede that to China. It is really that simple. Now, that's just on the pharmaceutical side. Then we also talk about regenerative medicine, where we're actually 3D printing tissue. Mike mentioned the meniscus, where we're growing in 3D tissue like cardiovascular tissue and vein tissue and other things. This type of regenerative medicine is critical to the future economy of the United States of America. And if we want to not have a fully mission-capable system, if we want to not have a permanent human presence in space, then not only does that capability go to China, but all of our international partners go to China as well because they want that capability. This is a big deal. So that's on the low Earth orbit side of things. And Senator Cruz, I know you're getting a lot of accolades today, but it is absolutely true. The one big beautiful bill with the $10 billion additional dollars for NASA human spaceflight was in large part you're doing, and I know it was bipartisan. I know the one big beautiful bill might not have been bipartisan, but that element was in fact bipartisan, and I know senators on both sides of the aisle are grateful for your leadership on that. So very important. I would also say the purpose of this hearing is, are we going to be able to get to the moon first? I mean, that's the title of the hearing. And I will tell you, and I know there's going to be questions, and I'll go into more depth later, but look at the architecture that we have developed to land American astronauts on the moon. Look at the architecture. It is extraordinarily complex. In some cases, it hinges on me saying here today that it is highly unlikely that we will land on the moon before China. And I'm going to explain it in the next 2 minutes. So, number one, we have the SLS rocket, which is the most powerful rocket ever built. And Senator Cruz mentioned, yes, it has had its problems in the past. It has been expensive. It had overruns, all those things. But it's behind us. It's done. We need to use it. We have the Orion crew capsule, which, quite frankly, is a shiny object in this whole thing. The Orion crew capsule is not only usable today, but ultimately the cost is going down because more and more of it is reusable every time we use the Orion crew capsule. Those two elements are in good shape. I will tell you, I have been critical of both in the past, in front of this committee and other places, and I'm more than happy to be critical of all of our contractors, just to be really clear. But I will say what we don't have today. Here's what we don't have today. We don't have a landing system for the moon. And there was a moment in time when we had no NASA administrator. It was after I was gone and before Senator Nelson became the NASA administrator, an architecture was selected. And I don't know how this happens, but the biggest decision in the history of NASA, at least since I've been paying attention, the biggest decision happened in the absence of a NASA administrator. And that decision was, instead of buying a moon lander, we're going to buy a big rocket. And I want to be clear, we need this rocket to be successful. It's important for the country and it's transformational. But in the meantime, the architecture is as such. We need to launch Starship. That first Starship is a fueling depot that's in orbit around the Earth. Then we need to launch, nobody really knows, but it could be up to dozens of additional Starships to refuel the first Starship. So imagine launching Starship over and 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 over, dozens of times, no delays, no explosions, to refuel the first Starship. Then once it's fully refueled, then that Starship has to fuel another Starship that is in fact human-rated, which that process hasn't even started yet. By the way, that whole in-space refueling thing has never been tested either. We're talking about cryogenic liquid oxygen, cryogenic liquid methane being transferred in space, never been done before, and we're gonna do it dozens of times, and then we're gonna have a human-rated Starship that is refueled that goes all the way to the moon. Now, when it goes to the moon, we don't know how long it can be there because it's boiling off the entire time it's in orbit around the moon. We don't know how long it can be there, but while it's there, we have to launch the SLS, we have to launch the Orion, the European Service Module, we have to have astronauts and crew all ready to go. And they have to orbit the moon themselves in that window when Starship is around the moon, and then they have to dock around the moon. They have to transfer from the Orion into the Starship. It has to go down and land. When it's on the surface of the moon, Starship is gone, or Orion is gone for the next 7 days until it comes back around in near rectilinear halo orbit. So our astronauts are right now planning to be on the surface of the moon for a period of 7 days without any way home. This is an architecture that no NASA administrator that I'm aware of would have selected had they had the choice. But it was a decision that was made in the absence of a NASA administrator in the last administration. It's a problem, it needs to be solved, and that puts us as a nation at risk of not being the first on the moon. I should say the first next on the moon, because we did land in 1969 to 1972. And Chairman Cruz, I would like to compliment you. I've heard that you have said that we need to put it into law, that The Wrath of Khan is in fact the greatest Star Trek movie in history. And we are in agreement with that. So with that, I yield back the time that I took from the general.